Senator, good evening. Good to have you with us tonight.
Well, Martha, thanks for having me on.
You listen to Senator Lee. You listen to the back and forth between Leader Boehner and President Obama today. Where are we? Well, what's your opinion on this tonight?
Well, first of all, I never believed the president was negotiating in good faith. I mean, if he was really serious about this, Martha, he would have been at the negotiating table 6 months ago. He would have presented a serious budget rather than the one that he presented to us in February that would have added $12 trillion to our debt and lost in the United States Senate 0 to 97. So it is the president and the Senate Democrats that haven't passed a budget in over 2 years that haven't presented a plan. If you take a look at it, my party, the House of Representatives, they actually passed a budget on time. And right now they passed the Cut Cap Balance Act, which, by the way, that is the solution to the problem. So, I mean, we're in this position because of the president and the Democrats in the Senate have refused to show us what their plan would be.
You know, you were elected in the last midterm election. You come from a business background. You're a businessman by profession. And I've talked to you about this before. And, I know you say you were a bit surprised, even you were a bit surprised at how sort of in such disarray things were when you got to Washington. Now that you're watching this whole thing go down, what are your feelings? Put yourself in your old shoes for a moment. What do you think about it now?
Well, Martha, I'm an accountant by background, and I've produced budgets on time. I've had people produce them for me on time. And to think that a couple folks, a few individuals would actually be able to come up with a budget in a couple weeks, behind closed doors, to fund the federal government, a $3.7 trillion a year enterprise. It's just absurd. But unfortunately, this has become business as usual. And business as usual here in Washington is bankrupting this country, and we've got to end this cycle. And again, the Republicans actually have a plan on the table now. The cut, cap, and balance, like Senator Lee was talking about, is the solution. It cuts spending next year. It caps the growth in spending, by the way. We're not really talking about cutting spending. We're just limiting the growth, and that's a very reasonable thing to do.
Let me ask you this. Can you take me through the scenario here? So let's say, they have this meeting tomorrow. All of the House and Senate leaders are there. The president's there. Let's say they come up with something. Is there anything that you can imagine at this point, them coming up with, that you would say, yes, I can get behind that in the Senate, and I would bet that my Republican colleagues in the House will also back that? What would that look like?
Well, because the president's backed us up against this deadline, I would be willing to, go for a short-term deal to give cut, cap, and balance. Yeah, to give cut, cap, and balance a longer period in the public arena. As Senator Lee said, 66% of the people support that approach. 74% support a balanced budget amendment.
All right, so wait, tell me what your short-term deal, excuse me, sir, just tell me what your short-term deal looks like. Is it the McConnell plan? What does it look like?
Well, you mentioned something that Charles Krauthammer proposed. I'm not in those negotiations. I'm just saying that I'd be willing to do something very short term to give us the time to debate, cut, cap, and balance, because I believe the American people will support it, and I believe that is the solution.
All right, so what if, you saw something that was in the neighborhood of $500 billion in cuts? What if, so it would have to be, I would assume, something that had absolutely no tax hikes in it? Or would you sign off on something that allowed certain loopholes to expire and certain tax reforms that would, in essence, have some corporations pay more money because there aren't loopholes anymore?
Listen, the number one component for a solution here is economic growth. And so the last thing we want to do is enact anything that harms economic growth, and that's what tax increases do. What we need is to put a credible plan on the table that restrains spending. That's what cut, cap, and balance does. That's what brings confidence back to the markets, to consumers, to actually get our economy growing again. And so, again, we haven't had anything to fight for because of all these secret negotiations. Cut, cap, and balance actually gives us something to present to the American people, show the American people what we're for. They'll support it. I think it can pass if we give it time.
All right. It's interesting. When you look at some of the polls on this, congressional Republicans have a 47% approval rating on this issue. No, I'm sorry. They're more to blame, according to this, than President Obama. What do you think about that? Have you had a tough time getting your message across here?
Every day that we went and negotiated with President Obama, when he was not negotiating in good faith, actually gave him credibility. I think his performance tonight showed he's certainly not the adult in the room. And again, if the American people take a look at what he hasn't done, I mean, we were bankrupting this country. He was going to add $12 trillion to our debt, and yet he didn't enter the negotiations till, what, about a month ago? That is not a serious player in these negotiations. He's simply not serious. He's not been negotiating.
People are blaming Republicans, Senator. People are blaming Republicans. They say 47% say that you are more to blame.
Again, we haven't had anything to fight for until cut, cap, and balance. Now we got it on the table. I think once we have the chance to show the American people the solution, I think we'll get that support.
All right, we got your work cut out for you, as do all your colleagues, it seems. Senator, very good to talk to you tonight. Very important decisions to be made over the weekend. We thank you, sir. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me on.